So today we got our first teaser trailer and the title for Star Wars Episode 9, and this is the final film in the Skywalker saga. So now we're going to break it down shot by shot. Hi, if you're new here, my name is Sean Chandler, and I started this channel because I was driving everyone around me crazy talking about movies way too much. If you can relate, you're probably in the right place. Consider clicking that subscribe button. With that in mind, go ahead and join me down below in the comment section. Share your big takeaways from the title, the teaser, as well as the Star Wars Celebration panel. Anything that you got out of it, let's talk about it down below. Let's have a nice, lively, yet respectful conversation about Star Wars. As a point of reference before we go into this, I thought that The Force Awakens was really good. I really enjoyed that one, but I was very disappointed by The Last Jedi and the direction that they took the plot. So this trailer debuted basically as the final piece of the Star Wars Episode 9 panel at Star Wars Celebration, and they streamed the whole panel live on the internet, and I watched the entire thing, including after the trailer ran, someone came out and they said something, and I will talk about that in this video when we get to the appropriate time. But there were kind of two big takeaways from the panel in regards to the film itself and specifically the plot of the film. The first one is that they said that the movie takes place a little while after The Last Jedi. It's not right after, some time has passed. That's the way they phrased it. The second big thing they said is that the team goes together on a big epic adventure. So kind of key phrasing from J.J. Abrams is that they are together, that they're not broken up and in different places. They're together and they go off on this big adventure. With all of that said, let's start breaking down the trailer. Trailer kicks off, the screen is still black and you can hear someone panting. Very likely going to be Rey, and then the Lucasfilm logo fades in. About 10 seconds in, it's revealed it is Rey. She's in the middle of a desert, breathing very heavily. From the panel, it appears that this was filmed in Jordan, and they talked quite a bit about filming in Jordan and being this real location. But so she's there, apparently alone, and the trailer spends a lot of time on Rey by herself in this desert, which makes this breakdown a little bit easier for me. Trailer zooms in on her face a little bit, and then we have Luke giving voiceover saying, "We have passed on all we know." Then we kind of quick pan down. Rey grabs her lightsaber and we see she's got the lightsaber. We got the Skywalker lightsaber in her hand and the idea of passing it along, and then we see lightsaber. It almost feels like a shot that was shot specifically for the trailer rather than a scene that would be in the movie, but you know, I could be wrong on that, but the way that it ties in with the voiceover and everything, it seems like a trailer type shot. And given that Rey was only trained for like, you know, an extended weekend with Luke, and he only was going to teach her like 3 different things inside of this, being that he's saying we've passed on all we know, you can take this in a whole bunch of different directions as to what could be going on, and the implication that we're looking at Rey as all of this is said. Because is there going to be more training inside of this film where other people train her and we have passed on all we know? Or is this like a flashback and we're going to see Mark Hamill again as Luke training Kylo Ren? And that's what some of this footage is of him and his Jedi Order and everything. And he's training young Kylo Ren, young Ben, to be the continuation. We've passed all we know along to you. Is that what this dialogue means? I'm not really sure, because in the context, there's a bunch of different interpretations of where all of this could be going, especially in light of the title that we'll get to at the end of this. It cuts to a wide angle shot of her in the desert, and it says, 1,000 generations live in you now, continuing this idea of everything that the Jedi have learned, studied, all of it is in you now. We're looking at Rey, but once again, one weekend of training, just a quick little weekend getaway off to the island. Did she get 1,000 years in that time? So what it all is kind of going on here is enough time passed that like several years have passed and she's been training herself, kind of like what Luke did going into Return of the Jedi, where he comes back after the second film a far more capable and powerful person. Is that what's kind of going on here? Or once again, is this scenario where it's being very misleading by showing us Rey when it's actually Luke talking to like Kylo or something like that? Then we get one of these little behind shots of her kind of holding the lightsaber, and off in the distance you can see a ship kind of coming towards her, setting up kind of the payoff of this long sequence. Cuts to a shot of Rey's face, and Luke says, "But this is your find."
But this is your find.
Which is a very interesting statement. Like, I listened to it several different times. Like, I'm pretty sure he's saying, but this is your find, not but this is your fight.
But this is your find.
I was listening for it. Did I hear that wrong? But it just sounds like this is your find, which going back to what JJ said before about this movie is like the team going together on a big adventure. Luke says, but this is your find. There's something out there that she's out trying to track down, hunt down this thing that she has found, which is the adventure of this film. It's one of those ones like, am I just hearing that wrong? Or is I saying this is your find? And what would be the context where Luke would be saying this? How does it tie into what themes they're establishing for this particular film? It's a very interesting line, because the idea is about, I've taught you everything I know, 1,000 generations are in you. Okay, those ones all make sense in light of what we've seen before about training Jedi. And okay. But this is your find, unless my ears are just playing tricks on me, in which case then I'm saying weird things right now. But it's a very interesting line to put inside of here. Cut to text on the screen, and it says every generation has a legend in that format that they've done for all of these trailers thus far. Now, they keep showing us Rey. So, of course, she's been our main force-growing apprentice-type person inside of this trilogy. So the assumption is that she is our legend, as Luke and Anakin were before. But then again, as this is the Skywalker saga, and each of the previous two iterations of this, our legend was a Skywalker. And they told us in the last movie she wasn't a Skywalker. So just kind of going back to, are they going to kind of pull a fast one on us once again and tricked you? There actually is a second reveal about her parentage. Or is part of the big twist inside of this is there is a full redemption of Kylo, and he's the one that brings order to everything. He's the one that does bring order to the Force and balance of the universe and all of that fun stuff. So we're kind of wondering if, I heavily have this feeling that it's a parentage, gigantic twist turn, or Kylo Ren, gigantic redemption, this one's going to have the big, gigantic turn everything upside down that Last Jedi didn't really give us. Last Jedi was like, it subverted your expectations. The big payoff for Snoke, he doesn't matter. The big payoff for Rey's parents, they don't matter. This one, it seems like they're actually going to have a big payoff inside of it in light of just some of the little pieces that they're putting in place. So then we go to this long shot. It's a wide shot of the desert, and it's kind of moving a little bit, and you kind of hear a ship coming, and then this ship flies by. Shot's about 10 seconds long. Cuts back to Rey. She turns her lightsaber on, spins around real quick to get ready for whatever's coming. Goes to a shot of Rey actually running, goes to a wider angle shot of her running, clearly making it that she's running away from the spaceship that's about to run her over. Then we get our big payoff moment as Rey jumps up in the air and starts flipping over a starship as she's holding her lightsaber, doing a cool Jedi flippy move to avoid a spaceship is very Jedi-esque. Cut to finally a new location, and we're on a planet. It looks like it's nighttime, kind of flying through the clouds in the mountains. It looks like an A-Wing flies by the screen. We pan over a little bit and reveals a city. Kind of a very Star Wars city reveal. Nothing much we can kind of discern from this. Jump to a shot of Kylo Ren running through a forest that's foggy and very red. And he's got his lightsaber drawn. There's a guy in front of him. Instead of just slashing the guy down, he picks him up and does this big body slam motion. In the background, you see a stormtrooper with him. So all this being the idea that it seems like, you're obviously still with the First Order, battling someone. I couldn't get a good read on what the uniform was of the person that he body slams. Just didn't find it interesting that of all the things he could do is that he does a body slam instead of just a quick one of these numbers to cut the guy in half. So not quite sure what that means, but we're seeing an interesting looking, the shot stands out because it is this foggy looking planet, and then he's body slamming people instead of classic Jedi, Sith, Force user, lightsaber kill move. Then we get a quick little shot of some machines working on Kylo Ren's mask, looking like they're welding it together. You see these big cracks and beams forming it all back together. From there, we go to a shot of Finn and Poe appearing to be on the planet that Rey was at in the first minute of this trailer. just kind of standing there in desert rock climbing, not rock climbing, but gear to be traveling in this type of terrain. Once again, not much to take away from it. And then we see BB-8 standing there with our new droid. I didn't catch his name during the panel, but during the panel, they had this little guy roll out on stage and they talked about the design. They showed an actual picture of several different things they had worked on for this new droid. And so then you get to see that he is pals with our friend BB-8. Cut to a shot of the cockpit of the Millennium Falcon from behind. You see Chewie's arms up in the air. There's someone with him in there in the other seat. And cuts to a shot of Lando Calrissian back behind the controls of the Millennium Falcon. And he does a little Lando laugh there. It's just a nice little moment. Because you think about it, I mean, of people watching my channel, most of you are younger than me, in which case, the last time Lando was in one of these, you weren't even born yet. When last time that he was like in a Star Wars movie, I was 1 year old, 2 year old. And so 35 years later, we're seeing him behind the controls once again. It's just a really neat thing to get to see. Even if we're like the shot itself, it's just, like that's all the shot is. But when you're talking about Billy Dee Williams actually in the Millennium Falcon, it's just a powerful little moment for people that have grown up watching these movies. Then we get a quick little shot of Millennium Falcon in space, traveling through hyperspace, and then it cuts to the line, "The saga comes to an end." I guess it had said a few frames before this, "coming this Christmas," and so I didn't mention that in there since it's just the release. But then it says, comes the end of the saga. Like they are from the first teaser, from the talk of the panel, and then as like I said, we get to the title at the end of this. They are very much pushing the fact this is the third part of a trilogy of trilogies. This is the final piece of a trilogy that is the third trilogy inside of a set of trilogies. This is the final piece of this 9-film arc about the Skywalkers. This saga, as we have called it, the episodic Star Wars films, this is it. This is the last one right here. It really is coming to a close. Then we jump back to, I believe, the planet from the first minute of the trailer. Don't really know if that's for sure. They're just typically the types of ways that they do terrain in Star Wars movies. It's most likely that planet. And you see kind of this big explosion, and out of it you see like a bunch of speeder bikes kind of flying through and other types of transport things flying. And it looks like First Order people are on the speeder bikes. Then it jumps over to what most likely, unless they're doing some trailer tricks to mislead us, most likely is a shot of the people who are being pursued, which is C-3PO, Finn, and Poe, and it looks like whatever ship that they're on is taking some damage as they're flying away from something while they're being shot at. The way it's cut certainly makes it seem like the previous shot was of First Order people chasing them on this planet. This is followed by a quick shot. I couldn't really make out exactly what was happening in it, but it looks like an 8-wing type, somewhat type style ship flying in front of a bigger ship as it's taken some damage and is flying a little bit out of control inside of a planet atmosphere. But the nature of the shot makes it difficult to see anything in particular and discern specific details. The next shot is of someone with some really nice clean looking hands holding a medal. If you stop and look at it, it looks like we're staring at one of the medals from the trophy room ceremony, the ceremony scene from throne room scene from Star Wars A New Hope. It appears that one of those medals put around someone's neck is now in their hands and they're looking at it. So assumption being that maybe it's Leia looking at it, reminiscing, something along those lines. Then the trailer cuts to a shot of Leia hugging Rey, which is just a real sweet, tender moment, especially in the death of Carrie Fisher and everything. From the panel, what they talked about, and they addressed specifically Carrie Fisher's involvement in this film. And the way JJ talked about it was, we had a bunch of these leftover shots that were unused footage from the shooting of The Force Awakens that just made sense in this context now. That we could use actual footage of her actual performance, and the nature, the way she interacted with characters, it fit inside of this movie. And it didn't feel like we were forcing things. We didn't have to do a CGI person. We didn't need to recast. This is her, and we had actual unused stuff that could make this work. And that could apply to both of these shots. It could be a shot from originally from The Force Awakens of her reminiscing about their victory in the first Star Wars movie, and then footage of Rey and Leia hugging at some point in time inside of that film, and that's what they've decided to use here. But they show the first shot of her, and then it cuts to another angle, and you see Rey hugging once again. Tear rolls down her cheek. And there's, of course, many different things that could mean in this context. But they're really powerful shots in light of both the history, the reality of Carrie Fisher's passing, as well as when you hear JJ talk about it, what they were able to do and how the confidence that he had with the solution that they kind of came up with is pretty neat. So while the two of them are hugging, you hear Luke once again chime in with some voiceover. "We will always be with you," which, once again, a very just poignant little thing to put on that particular clip of Carrie Fisher inside of this trailer, going to be inside of the movie in light of everything. That's some pretty powerful stuff right there. But also, once again, what exactly does that mean in light of the context of this film? Who is being talked to? How does it tie into everything kind of happening? After this, we then see Chewie, BB-8, our new droid, Poe, Finn, Rey. Maybe I missed someone in there, but they're in this kind of grassy field, kind of drab-looking clouds behind them, and they're kind of looking off in the distance at something. And then it cuts to this big, massive shot of them from behind, apparently, assumedly the same shot now from the other angle, and we're seeing what they were looking at. Looks like they're on the edge of a cliff. There's this massive watery area in front of them, and then these big, gigantic pieces of debris off in front of them. You can't really make out what the debris is, but the assumption being to some extent that I like my thought was Death Star. Is that what we're looking at right now? That was my first impression. I've heard some other people kind of mention that even in just the little discussions that I've had up to this point in time, because could be Starkiller Base, it could be Death Star. I mean, it could be a lot of different things, but like, what would they be looking at off in the distance that would be this massive? Because even the way the water's kind of working, you can tell these are massive waves moving very slowly because of their extreme size. And then you see these huge things off in the distance in the far part of it. So my thought was, Death Star? Is that where we're going with this? Which is an interesting little takeaway, because you kind of put some of the, okay, let's step back on this once again. The team comes together, and so you've got Chewie and Lando and a Millennium Falcon again, and then you've got maybe a Death Star again with some of what we're talking about. And then we're about to get to something else that kind of like, okay, we're just doing Return of the Jedi. We're just repeating some of this stuff. Is that where we're kind of headed with this? Because everything we've seen in this trailer doesn't really feel like Return of the Jedi, but then you put some of these final moment pieces together and you go, is this just a new take on Return of the Jedi? Are we kind of doing a little bit of that again? Then, as we are still looking off at the trailer in the distance, Luke says, "No one's ever really gone." Trailer cuts to black, and then you start hearing Palpatine laughing. And so when I first listened to it, I was like, who could that, what could this be? What is that Palpatine? Wait, where are we going with this? And I was watching the original stream of the panel itself when this aired. And so the trailer airs, and we got a little bit more we have to talk about, and then it ends. And you just have Ian McDiarmid right there, Palpatine, the actor that plays him, standing on stage, and he just goes, "Roll it again." And then they played it a second time. But so right after you have this laugh, and you're like, is that Palpatine laughing? Is Palpatine in this movie? And it cuts to him on stage. He's actually there. It says, "Roll it again," one more time. And then I don't know if it had been announced that he was in the movie. I don't know if it had been announced that he was cast. But if you go to the Wikipedia page, he's now listed on there, and it's not a secret that he is in this movie. Palpatine is returning, which Lando and Chewie flying the Millennium Falcon. Looks like we got a Death Star. Palpatine's returning. It's pretty Return of the Jedi in there. But like I said, the trailer that we're looking at in general does not look like Return of the Jedi. It's very much a teaser. We're just getting these little glimpses, so you can't really tell much from it. But what do I think about Palpatine returning? Scares me. That is a scary direction to go. As soon as you start doing stuff and no one's really gone, then they come back. That's a dangerous game. You start playing with the rules like that. I mean, I don't know where they're going with it. I don't know what they're implying. Obviously, it's just like a type thing, but there's a lot of ways that can go bad. There's a lot of ways that can go wrong, and you just feel like the whole universe you're cheated. Star Wars has done a lot of things where they've managed to turn things upside down and succeeded at it. And then sometimes they've really failed when they've tried to, like, let's turn the whole thing upside down. Let's subvert your expectations. Sometimes that goes really badly. So, I mean, that's not the direction I would have recommended that they go. I would not have, let's bring Palpatine back. Let's do that whole thing. That is not where I would necessarily go with things. Then again, they put the pieces in place. Like, Episode 3, there's a whole lot of stuff about him cheating death and living on. Like, that is a massive, major theme of his character's existence, of Darth Vader's existence, of the whole saga and twists and turns. All goes back to immortality and the ability to live on. So I guess, I mean, they've put the pieces in place to do their homework to earn it, but I'm just still very, very nervous about it. So then it cuts finally to it says Star Wars, and then it rolls out and it says The Rise of Skywalker. The Rise of Skywalker. So at first glance, just seeing Skywalker in the title, I was like, oh, Skywalkers. I was really excited just to see Skywalkers in the title, especially as they're clearly, this is the end of the saga. This is the Skywalker saga. We put Skywalker in the title itself. That's pretty powerful stuff. That's neat. But The Rise of Skywalker, it's kind of a weird title, kind of a strange title, especially in light of the other titles. Like, okay, like if we had a pronoun in a Star Wars title before, like have we done that in an episode title before? Like that, it pops a little bit in the wrong way when you do that. And then I just kind of think, Dark Knight Rises, Rise of the Silver Surfer, Rise of the Guardians. Like there's been Rise titles. There seems like there's a bunch of those over the last 10 years. And so it feels like, okay, I'm not crazy about using Rise of the Planet of the Apes. I'm not crazy about using that word again in a title. So it just feels a little bit kind of sloppy of sorts in using that one. But I don't hate it. And Star Wars titles have always been kind of hokey. Most of them are kind of cheesy. If you step back and think about, like, if you grew up with Empire Strikes Back, it's like, oh, Empire Strikes, that's a cool title. Empire Strikes Back is kind of a goofy title if you just stop and think about it. Like, they're all kind of weird. So I don't put a whole lot of stock in Star Wars title names. That's not the thing that I get worked up on or anything like that. But first feelings on it, I like that Skywalker's in the title. I don't like the word Rise, and the whole thing in general feels weird and clunky. So this was a true teaser trailer. If you want my full take on these Star Wars films, there's my ranking of all of them right over there. Share your takes on the trailer and what you noticed down below in the comments section. Thank you so much for watching, and keep talking movies too much.